I should have known 4 years of a marriage built on his belief that my security was his accomplishment would end with an unearned flourish of male privilege. But even I wasn't prepared for the cold arrogance that day. My husband, Trevor, a 36-year-old sales manager whom I'll call the self-inflicted tenant, had just stumbled upon his phone, left innocently charging on our shared kitchen island but actually my inheritance. The phone had lit up with a string of texts from a coworker named Chloe, and suddenly, the perfect facade of our New England suburban home, value $550,000, paid off in cash 17 years before Trevor ever shook my hand, shattered. It wasn't the texts that revealed the affair, I'd known that simmering for months. It was the next thing he said. He walked past me, looking down his nose as if I were a piece of clutter he couldn't wait to donate. "Chloe is moving in," he stated, adjusting the knot on his tie. "I was going to wait to tell you, but since you couldn't trust me and checked my phone, I need a clean break. I give you 8 days to pack your things and find another place. This house is legally mine now, as a marital asset. I intend to move on with my future, Chloe and I." 8 days. He stood in the entryway that his own father had never been able to afford, declaring ownership over the physical space and throwing my future out the door with a flimsy deadline. The property, the 3-bedroom, New England-style colonial with a wraparound porch, the house my grandmother had left solely to me, where I had grown up, in his mind, all of it was somehow his marital right. He had confused living here with owning it. I just looked at him with the chilling calm of a litigator who realized her opponent just presented faulty evidence. 8 days for my things, Trevor?" I asked. He puffed up, the proud proprietor. 8 days for your things, Brielle. The lease will change a little post-separation, of course, but you know I'll retain ownership. I will cut you a settlement check once the lawyers get involved, but I suggest you prioritize packing. Chloe doesn't like clutter. He assumed tears. He assumed resignation. He was waiting for the emotional blow-up, the wife begging him to remember the 4 years of cohabitation. Instead, he got the marketing executive turning into a financially self-sufficient, legally meticulous ex-wife. "You have your 8 days, Trevor," I said, walking to the pantry for a coffee cup. "And I highly suggest you and Chloe take every opportunity to enjoy the next 48 hours in my property." I let the coffee brew, grabbed my phone, and called the only man who could counter Trevor's hubris, Ms. Davies, my firecracker inheritance protection lawyer. He told me to pack in 8 days, claiming our house as a marital asset and introducing his replacement, I explained, my voice steady. "Can we remind him who actually owns this property, and does he intend to move in a co-tenant immediately?" Ms. Davies just dryly coughed a laugh. "Brielle, dear, that house has not existed in your marital records since your grandmothers will designated it as separate inherited property. Trevor has zero financial claim to the structure. And if he introduces a co-tenant or mistress, he is legally violating an implied rental agreement for peaceful cohabitation." This was exactly what I needed. My focus shifted from personal grief to legal execution. I wouldn't drag his name through the mud with our divorce filing immediately. The legal clock was a sweeter weapon. I confirmed that Trevor had brought Chloe a spare set of house keys and made the fatal assumption that their shared life started immediately. "Miss Davies," I said firmly. "I want immediate unlawful detainer notices, an eviction. One specifically for the tenant, Trevor, and a separate one for the trespasser, Chloe. I want them served precisely 48 hours from now." I spent the next 47.5 hours packing a single suitcase. It didn't contain everything, it only contained essentials and items that linked back to my grandmother, my personal inheritance that held real emotional, not financial, value. For nearly 2 full days, Trevor and Chloe pranced around my home with nauseating entitlement. He was smug and unnecessarily loud in his calls, bragging to his colleagues, "Yeah, had to let the wife go. Didn't fit the new brand, you know? The house is mine, of course, paid off years ago." Chloe, meanwhile, started repositioning my grandmother's antique furniture with the presumption of immediate ownership. I just watched, packing one handbag, one jewelry box, one family album. I did not engage. I did not yell. I just waited for the legal power of the state to kick down his smug door. 48 hours after his pathetic 2-minute ultimatum, the local clock clicked past 9 a.m. I had just finished loading my single suitcase into the trunk of my car when a heavy Ford Cruiser and an official-looking sedan pulled up. A sheriff's deputy and a stern process server walked up the walk, a stack of envelopes clutched tight. I pulled back from my car and walked toward the deputy. The sound of excited high-fives was coming from my living room, Trevor and Chloe seemingly celebrating their new life. I nodded at the deputy. That would be them, officer. They are aware of the situation. I own this real property. They are occupying it illegally. The deputy rang the doorbell with official authority. Trevor, wearing a ridiculous white bathrobe I had bought him, opened the door, a goofy, triumphant grin plastered on his face. Yes, officer, what's the issue? He chuckled, completely oblivious to the gravity of a process server's presence. The server, a no-nonsense woman in her mid-50s, didn't flinch. Mr. Andrew Trevor? We are serving you with this unlawful detainer notice. You are hereby ordered to vacate the premises known as 4400 Maple Road, property of Ms. Brielle, my surname. Your right of habitation is immediately revoked, subject to court order of trespass should you refuse. You are not the owner. Trevor's smile evaporated as if wiped off by a caustic sponge. What? No. You have the wrong house. This is a marital asset. Then came the killer blow, the one that made Chloe materialize, wearing one of my silk robes with my grandmother's embroidered initials. The server handed a second, precisely addressed envelope. Miss Chloe, Mistress's surname? You are being served with a notice to trespass and illegal occupation. The owner wants you out immediately. Chloe gasped, adjusting the robe that wasn't hers. Wait. This property is his. He said he would own it. The sheriff's deputy stepped forward, calm but massive. Ma'am, the documents, legally filed yesterday at 4:30 p.m., clearly state that Ms. Brielle is the sole heir, owner, and holder of the deed. You and Mr. Trevor are trespassers, effective immediately, pending a fast-track hearing. I recommend that you cease your cohabitation and pack immediately. I stood on the walkway, watching Trevor's ego collapse in real time. This wasn't a divorce spat, this was the harsh reality of property law. I watched him finally catch sight of me near my car, one single suitcase, an ironic smile on my lips. His fury was immediate. He stomped out. Brielle. You snake. You gave me 8 days. You lied to the sheriff. I gave you 8 days to pack your things, Trevor, as a courtesy, I corrected, enjoying every syllable. Not 8 days to settle my home with your mistress. And the house was never yours, Trevor. It was my grandmother's inheritance, a matter of public record. My lawyer and I will not rent my inheritance to you or your subtenant. You just confused your ownership fantasy with my real life. While the server explained the legal time limits to a pale, speechless Trevor and a hysterical Chloe, I simply turned my back. I got into my car and left them standing on the driveway, the deputy confirming their swift, mandatory departure. Trevor and Chloe were gone within 5 hours, with some assistance from a polite sheriff, who definitely enjoyed the situation, and a couple of sad moving boxes. The whole neighborhood knew within the hour, enjoying the high-stakes gossip that often plagues these quiet New England streets. Trevor tried for the next few weeks. He used his lawyer, who also had a good laugh with Ms. Davies, to claim marital contribution to the home environment. Ms. Davies promptly countered those claims with a final, formal statement. The only contribution Mr. Trevor made was creating an uninhabitable environment due to dishonesty, necessitating the immediate filing of the eviction notice and the subsequent fast-track divorce, which Ms. Brielle reserves the right to make fully public in the interest of unremarkable legal truth. He dropped the financial claims immediately. Chloe, meanwhile, attempted to salvage items she liked that were actually my property from the discarded boxes. She ended up paying a steep price for one of my grandmother's statues, which she assumed was a discarded wedding gift. A tiny, final act of petty financial justice. My healing was instantaneous. I changed the locks, the passwords, and immediately called a kitchen contractor. The money I'd saved over 4 years of paying his way, but now legally untouchable due to the separation, was now fully my own, and it was going towards the new chef's kitchen, what I had always wanted, but which Trevor always vetoed, saying we couldn't spare the money. Standing in the newly empty living room of my own paid-off home, my sanctuary, I realized the house was more than an asset. It was the physical manifestation of my enduring stability. Trevor wasn't entitled to the emotional security it offered, let alone the deed. He gave me 8 days to pack my life. I used 48 hours to secure his immediate, irreversible financial and personal ruin. He learned that giving someone an ultimatum when they hold the deed is not an act of strength. It is merely the act of the self-inflicted tenant writing his own eviction notice. The house was not a prize for being loved. The house was what kept me safe, and now, it was utterly and fiercely my own.